He arrives at the underground city of darkness, and he sees the figures and the building there. They are no doubt terrifying, and he rightly assumes that it is a city of magic or a dark city, like the one he frequently sees in the fantasy books he reads. All the people he is looking at in the city look dangerous. He sees the undead in the city, and he says that the life-depressing undead probably increases their numbers every time they attack the city. They look very scary, and they even terrify him, even though he is also a zombie. He sees another set of people in the market that aren't undead. He feels they are a set of bandits, and they are probably a dream team assembled of villains filled with greed and murder, and for that reason, he is glad he actually has a claw. He then sees a dark elf. His aura, the way he drinks, and the way he sits, it all suggests just one thing, which is the fact that he is an absolute villain. He assumes the wine he is drinking was taken as a reward from the white elves above ground as a trophy. He imagines a scene of the dark elves of terror enjoying the final scream of their victims while sipping wine. You can agree that Ju Yoon is eventually enjoying the fantasy life he thought he would be reincarnated into. He is now seeing the things he wants to see. He sees a young female elf come to meet the dark elf. She wonders why he is sitting and lazing around at that place and asks him if he isn't going to work. She drags his ear and he screams. He tells her not to drag his ear and say he is going to work, but he just wants to enjoy that one glass of wine before going to continue his work. She reminds him that he has a small mouth and it takes him half a day to finish a drink. He knows that they are swamped with orders, and he has the guts to drink a glass of wine for half a day. Ju Yoon realizes that he is wrong about the man's class and that they aren't dark elves. He figures that they are really elves of life and not dark elves. He figures the male elf of life married a woman from the dark elf clan, and he feels it is strange. All the people in the market who wants to buy several things try to make their orders. A lady says that the undead community market is now open, and she invites the people in the market to buy from them, telling them that they will receive free antiseptics if they buy any time from them. Another man advertises that if they buy from him, he will give them free mushroom. Although he has eventually figured that where he is may be just a normal village, because of what he has gone through as a brick eater in that world. He has a stereotype about that world. He enters into a cave with a female zombie. As they enter, he sees that the inside of the cave is bright, like a shining light. She tries to talk to him, but he doesn't understand her since she can't really talk. He tries to get what she means, and he eventually figures she is asking him what a lamp is. He comments that she is more curious than she looks, and he tries to explain to her what a lamp is. Before he talks, he wonders if they are really on the right path, and he asks her about it. He sees a skeleton of 3 heads hanging on the door and welcomes them as customers. He is scared, and he doesn't want to go in, but reluctantly he does. Inside the cave, he sees several weird personalities. He sees a man who tells him that he has a very nice claw. A monster tries to advertise his product to another man, telling the man that he has some nice antiseptics that are quite popular among the undead. And he also has moisturizers which stop their body from getting dry and falling off. He explains to the buyers that there is a new trend among the undead to take care of their body and ensure their body doesn't decay. He asks the buyers if there is any apothecary that they desire to buy from him. The female zombie calls his attention to them. The seller recognizes her as the doll of Lucifer. He says that Lucifer is a pretty weird guy, and if he is the one, he would rather buy slaves than create dolls by himself and spending his money on dolls. He claims it's even more profitable to deal with slaves because slaves can even breed when they are really being taken care of. If he adds up all the medicine fees that Lucifer has paid him so far, he will buy several breedable slaves, and even if he believes those from higher positions who are crazy, he still won't run short. Ju Yoon isn't comfortable with how the man is speaking about them and treating them like they aren't humans. He feels it's sad. The seller sees his claw and wonders what kind of claw it is that. He says that Lucifer liked barbaric things, and he feels Lucifer was beaten up as a child. Eventually, after they buy the things they need, they leave the cave. On their way, he tells the female zombie that they watched the seller say horrible things about their master for over an hour, and the seller even treated them as if they weren't there. He is angry that his master has been belittled in such horrible ways, although he also acknowledges that Lucifer is such a weird person, and he wonders why he is feeling pity for a person who isn't a good person on his own. He wonders if the way he feels is due to the powers of the soul shackles that Lucifer has used on them. He notices that the female zombie finds it difficult to take the stairs because of the things she is carrying, and she is so tired. When he sees her, he takes the basket from her and asks her what she is doing. He tells her that a boneless kid like her shouldn't be flexing the muscles she doesn't have. He asks her what she thinks he will do if she faints from exhaustion, and it's his first time outside the Ark, so it's not like he can survive there on his own, even though he thinks he was worried for no reason in the Ark. But that place is definitely a dangerous place too. After spending a day in the city, he has noticed that there wasn't any segregation among the races, but it seems like they were transactional slaves. He doesn't even know how they produce the slaves. Anyway, for him to ensure he isn't taken and sold as a slave, he has to stay vigilant and not wander along the street. At that point, he sees a pretty young girl. Both her legs, her clothes, the way she walks, and the speed she walks speaks elegance. He also sees some knights and horses, and he sees another random lady. He fixes his glances on the pretty young girl as he notices a man kidnap her. It turns out the other random lady on the horse and followed by knights is the countess. Immediately, the girl is kidnapped. The countess notices it, and she turns. When her knights ask her what has happened to her, she tells them that a girl has been kidnapped. They ask her if they should send soldiers to find the girl and save her, but she refuses to make such an order, saying that it is very useless to save weak and stupid beings as such. She feels there is no need for them to disturb the market over something as minute as that, even though it's a real person that is missing. Contrary to what the countess has wished upon the dear child, the girl survives. She is saved by a man who she calls Grandpa, and he rescues her from the monsters who have attacked her. It turns out that she has actually wandered away from home, and she apologizes to Grandpa. He kills all the monsters. He is also angry at her because he has warned her to be careful, but she refuses. He tells her that although there is no one chasing them at the moment, they aren't still safe, and she has to be careful. In fact, this city is much more dangerous than where they are initially, and the moment she shows a sign of weakness, her soul stone is gone forever, just like the soul stone of the monsters he has killed. He warns her to be careful, and she promises him that it won't happen again, so he comments that she is a good girl and leaves with her. In that city, there are brick eaters, demons, beasts, dark elves, lizard men, and how they have vampires in their midst. Ju Yun's attention gets on the countess, and he looks at her status portal so he will know how powerful she is. He sees that she is actually a vampire countess, and her soul rank is rank B. Her race is a true bloodline. Her physical power is 4, but on her battle power, he sees a skeleton sign. He wonders why her battle power is like that, and says that's a great way to show battle power. Not like he is shocked. He has seen more than he bargained for in that city. The same city where undead have stores. But he feels that the reason her battle power has a skull signal is that if he fights with her, she will break his skull. After walking in that city for hours, he is sure that he has seen everything and everyone in that city, and the only thing he has never seen is human. After some time, he learns some path through meager chores, and eventually, the responsibility of going to buy his master's ingredients stops being the female zombie's responsibility, and it becomes his work. As a result of that, he becomes ever accustomed to living in that world, and he is able to live in that world for months without much happening to him. But without much, he doesn't mean that nothing has happened to him at all, but he hasn't gone through anything at all, but he has been managing regardless. He has combined his knowledge of his initial world and the one he had understood from that world together, and he has turned them into one. He tries to give an example of what a non-monster will be wary of, and in that world, there are no police, so there is no law and order to guard the people. If you meet a criminal, you have to pray that you are stronger than the criminal, so every time he meets something or someone dangerous, he appreciates his master once again for installing that claw in his hand, as he will use his claws to defeat the criminal. On his way that day, he sees a black-looking girl. She looks suspicious, and she keeps staring at him. When he looks at her in return, she runs away. He wonders what's happening with her. He feels she is very suspicious, and he doesn't know if she is indeed a threat to him because she looks small. He considers if she can be a threat, but remembers that he is in a fantasy world where even the smallest person can have the greatest of power, so her small looks doesn't matter. She may belong to an insane magical race where they have powers, or she may have companions which she can call to attack him. He is holding his master's medicines, and although he doesn't know what the medicine is for, but they look like they are very expensive, so if he is trying to think the way a prospective thief will think, the gang probably thinks he is a walking ATM with a claw on him. Hence, even if it's at the expense of his life, he must ensure he protects the medicine, as they are his master's precious items. It's not like he is scared of fighting the thieves if they come. He is really confident of killing and hitting them, but it will be difficult and challenging for him to fight thieves while guarding the medicines he has with him. He can't multitask the 2 jobs. He eventually decides to start his journey, but later changes his mind. When he returns to the laboratory, Lucifer asks him if he has been paying attention to the medicines he has been going to buy, and commands him that they should start their experiment. Ju Yun immediately knows he has done his job badly, and the only way he can survive is to beg. He immediately starts begging Lucifer, telling him to have mercy on him, and Lucifer tells him that he will allow him to live. Lucifer turns him into a dog with claws around his tails, and he is eventually taking a walk with the tiny zombie and the cute dog. The female zombie takes him and the skinny zombie on a walk. As he walks, he comments that depending on his rope and traversing the vast world, there is nothing else he fears or anything he feels distressed of. While he is sad about his new dog life, the skinny zombie tries to encourage him. He tells him that the dog world isn't too bad, and that once he experiences it, he will feel better. He doesn't feel too bad about it, and he is familiar with it. He says it is not too different from his original life. Although it is not really different, at least this life is just a problem with his dignity, and almost everyone else ignores it, so he is okay. You must have wondered how he got himself in the condition of getting punished by his master. On that fateful day, as he sights the weird and suspicious girl and he sees her running, he decides that he needs to tail her and find out why she is looking at him. He follows her, and although she doesn't notice him, he feels she has her eyes on the vitals that he is carrying. He is angry that someone has the audacity to envy the vital that is being escorted by the Great Claw doll. He feels he needs to see the face of the girl as she has her face covered with black masks. And guess what? He already has Skinny Zombie's accent. He then sees the girl approaching two huge monsters. He assumes that they are her companions whom she wants to tell about his vitals. He says that they look hideous, as he has expected, and he doesn't know if he should fight them or allow them to go. He actually feels that fighting them will be too much of a pain for him. And if he is thinking about the safety of the vital, as he thinks of what he wants to do, he notices that the men aren't really the young girl's companion as he sees them fighting with her. He goes nearer and overhears one of the men grabbing her by her cloth and asking her what it is. They call her a pickpocket and claim she is too full of herself. They threaten to kill her, and he calls her a bitch, asking her if she knows who he is and how many things he commands. The girl cries loud to beg them. She tells them that she isn't a pickpocket, but they insist that she is one. They claim the only way they can be sure is to check her pocket. They grab her mask and remove it from her face as they prepare to search her and confirm if she is a pickpocket. She refuses to let them. She asks them what they are going to do if they eventually search her and find out she isn't really a pickpocket. It turns out the little girl is the same one that was kidnapped by monsters earlier. She asks them how they will live with such insolence if they find out they have accused her wrongly. Ju Yun realizes that her voice is that of a child. The two guards look at themselves and say if they search her and find out she isn't a pickpocket, then she isn't. They tell her they can't punish her if she isn't a pickpocket, but they actually came out to find dinner, and she is a soft young devil, and her meat will really taste wonderful, and since her master isn't here, anyone who gets her first can eat her, and if they kill her before her master comes, there will be no problem. After watching the entire scene for a long while, Ju Yun forgets his responsibility as he can't watch the monsters eat the girl. He steps in and tells them they must not touch her. He warns them that they will get stomach aches if they eat random things, and he calls them retards. It is after his random blabbing that he looks at their stat. He sees that they are Bat Orc Ruffian, and they are of Soul Rank D. The first one's physical level is 7, and his battle power is 104. He is also from the Flesh Taster clan, while for the second one, his physical level is 7, and battle power is 120, and he is a meticulous carnivorous. It's at this point that Ju Yun knows that he is indeed in trouble. After checking their stats, he knows he can't approach them with a fight. He calls out to them and tells them to calm down. He tells them they don't need to misunderstand him, and all they have to do is to hear him out. He denies his words immediately, telling them he didn't call them retard shit. But one of them tells him that he heard him clearly, and he heard him call them retards. He refuses to accept the allegations and says that the monster has probably imagined that he said it because he can't say such. One of the monsters comes to him in an up-close position. While Ju Yun feels the man's breath must stink. Since he is a zombie, he can't smell, so he can't decide what the man smells like. However, now that they have attacked him closely, he knows so well that he can't get into a fight with them if he doesn't want to die. He remembers all he has gone through in this world that he has recently come to, and he feels he shouldn't ruin his life again because of his reckless and stupid decision. He needs to protect himself at all costs. He feels like he should back up from the fight as the monsters think of the best way they should enjoy their night meal. One suggests that they should cook the girl, while the other claim he is tilted toward eating raw meat that night. One of them is happy that it has been a while since they had enjoyed such a nice meal, and he tells the other that they can't let it go to waste by boiling or cooking the meal wrongly by accident, so it is best they eat it once. His partner insists that they can't eat her raw at once, and that they have to preserve her for a few days if they want to eat her raw. He then asks his partner what they will do about their present hunger if they insist they want to eat her raw. Meanwhile, Ju-yoon hears all this conversation as he tries to return to his vital. He can't allow the girl to die that way, and he feels he has no choice but to save her. He claims that it is the work of heroes in fantasy stories to save a person in danger. But what is unfair about these heroes is that they can lose or fail. But even if they fail, they still look awesome, unlike him. He is different from the heroes he knows. And before he came to that world, he was nothing, he says. And so, trying to feel like he is really the big deal, you know? A hero trying to behave like one. Irrespective of that, he tells them he has a deal for them, since they are interested in food and they want to eat a random girl. He will just offer them a profitable deal. Why don't them trade the girl with his master's vital? He feels like they will like that condition because he has heard from the shop owner the first time he went to the shop with the female zombie that the vitals are worth a few slaves. So yes, that's the beginning of the end with him. And that's why he is now just a head on a dog's body. And that's how he became doomed. He doesn't feel bad about it because he feels he has been doomed from the moment he got into that world. That was the same mindset he had when he was encountering those monsters. Since he was doomed, he doesn't see any reason why he couldn't compound his problems. He negotiates with the monsters, telling them that the vitals he is holding are very expensive. He sees that the monsters are considering accepting his proposition, so he decides he will try to act cool. He brings his hands forward, asking them if they want the deal, and says they should accept his hand if they want it. The monster shakes his hand, and while he thinks it's because the monster wants to accept his deal, the monster refuses to let go of his hand. He asks him to let go of his hand, telling him he can give them the vital if they leave his hand, but the monster breaks his bone. The monster tells him he doesn't care if Ju-yoon had called him retarded shit or something, and Ju-yoon realizes that the monsters have heard him. But the monster says that scamming him is a different thing entirely. The monster screams that he must die. It looks like an explosion has just occurred. Ju-yoon wonders why they think he wanted to scam them, and he wonders if what he has just witnessed is really an explosion. He tries to speak with them and negotiate. He tells them that if they don't like what he has offered them, they should tell him first instead of attacking him. He begs them that they don't have to use violence, but it doesn't seem like they are interested in all that he has to say. He really doesn't feel pain due to his broken hand because zombie bodies have receptors, and even if his arm is broken, or he gets hit by someone, he can't feel pain. But that doesn't mean he won't feel the impact of the attack, because even at that point that he can't move. They eventually calm down and speak to him again. They call him a rotten seafood and ask him if he now understands how that world works. They expose him to how the world works and says the only thing that works there is violence. Hence, if they let him go after he had come for them that way like they are idiots, other will go for them thinking they are weak and they had shown weakness. They can't let that happen, so they will return everything he has done. They squeeze the girl's head, and instead of feeling concerned about what he is going through at that moment, Ju-yoon feels more concerned about the girl. He tells them to please let her go. He tells them he doesn't know why they are that angry, but he is saying sorry regardless. They don't care about him. They tell him he should just remain where he is and enjoy the show, as beating him will only make their knuckle hurt. So instead of beating him, the punishment he will face is that they will make him watch as they rip and eat the child in front of him, as they think that will be the best way to hurt him than beating him. He lies in regret as they watch his sad face. He wonders why he always fails in whatever he does. He feels his consciousness leaving him, and suddenly he gets a notification that he has received a new skill. The skill is a physical skill, and it is rank B. He gets cannibal in regeneration, too, and his broken hand heals up immediately. The skill is helpful as it works in such a way that even if he doesn't have intestines again, his lust for blood and flesh will always remain. The monsters are shocked that he can stand up. However, his new skill has a side effect, as he would always have physical buff due to cannibalistic desires, and he will always want to consume the blood and flesh of the living. He forges at the monsters and attacks them. He screams that they should let go of the girl, and he feels his body getting light. He is glad that the new skill he has gotten is useful. He goes straight to the head of one of the monsters, and he hits him on his head. The monster's eyes get bloody immediately. He takes the girl away from their grip, and she watches the fight. When he finishes, he goes to her and asks her if her head is okay. As they have been squeezing her head since they took her, he knows she could have died then. Suddenly, he feels like he has another personality. He feels the urge to eat the girl, and he wonders what is going on. The inner personality keeps asking to eat meat too. He feels like he has multiple personalities, and the part of his body that wants to eat the girl has meat overshadows the part of him that actually wants to save the girl. Subconsciously, he goes nearer to the girl and holds her by her neck, screaming meat and saying that he wants to eat meat. It seems like the will not to consume the girl creates another alter personality in him. He tries to control himself, and it seems his mind is fighting. He hopes to regain his brain and leave the girl. He fights himself, saying that his carnivorous self should leave his body. He tries to fight his alter ego, but he can't touch it. He can't control himself, and he feels it's over, and he may eventually kill the girl. Suddenly, his claw removes. The girl's grandpa eventually arrives. He tells him that the test is over, and it's enough. And he says that Ju Yoon's existence is very compelling, and he has been looking for someone like Ju Yoon for a long period. He welcomes Ju Yoon and calls him an otherworldly soul. That means he actually knows Ju Yoon reincarnated from another world. The man takes him to a laboratory and fixes his hand back. He tells him that the restoration of his body is almost complete and asks him if his soul is also back. The first thing Ju Yoon does after getting his brain back is to check the old man's stat. He sees that the man's combat stats are really high. He is Malgoze, and his soul rank is S, the highest Ju Yoon has seen since he got to that world. His race is that of a demon, and his physical power is 1, but his battle power is 3 skulls. He doesn't know what the skull means, but he feels since the man has 3 skulls, he is 3 times better than the vampire countess he met before. The girl realizes that he can also see their stats. She tells him she knows he can see it, and asks him what he thinks about her stats. 2. Her name is Ji, and her soul rank is Renka. Her physical power is 2, and her battle power is 3. She brags that Ju Yoon should be in awe of her great skills and awesomeness. Her numbers aren't that high, but since her battle power is 3, it means she is stronger than a brick eater. He goes nearer to her and touches her head. He tells her that she is doing great, and that he is indeed glad that she is fine after all she has gone through. He also feels the old man knows where he came from, and the only way he can confirm that is if he asks the elder if he knows where he had come from. He doesn't waste any time before asking. He feels it's eventually real, and it's time for him to have that special event in that world that will make him the hero he really is. He has expected that the elder will speak to him in a homely manner, but he doesn't get that kind of approach. The elder tells him that it looks like he isn't used to this world's manners. He shakes his head at Ju Yoon and calls him a pitiful, compelling soul. He warns him in the name of Malgazit that he shouldn't speak to him that way again until he receives the Great Tarnal's permission. Even if he doesn't know what that means, he knows the man is angry because of how he had spoken to him. He apologizes to the elder and tells him that his democratic ideals from the human world haven't fully disappeared from his life, even though he is presently living as a slave. The elder tells him that he doesn't care about the previous world he has come from. All he wants to do for him is to give him a chance in this world. He tells him the chance he wants to give him will surely be a sacred path. It will be something great that a pitiful soul like Ju Yoon wouldn't have been able to imagine or dream of. Ju Yoon has a lot to say, but he knows he has to stay quiet. Even if he doesn't care about the man's battle power, the man seems like the only one who can save him from the pitiful life he is presently living. He doesn't want to accept the man's offer, too, because of his master. He tells the elder that he isn't going. He says he can't even go because although his master, Lucifer, is a bit weird, he at least allows him to live like this. But the way the elder behaves towards him doesn't feel like he would like his company. He doesn't finish his conversation when the elder drags him closer. He can feel the elder's anger, and he knows that he may die. He feels it's not too late for him to get his life back, and the only way he can do that is to tell him he is sorry, and he will follow him because he can feel the aura of the demon, and it's really scary. The elder leaves him alone. He doesn't try to convince him to follow him, and he tells Ju Yoon that Ju Yoon's decision is very nice. He says his loyalty compares to that of a minotaur, and it seems like he was born to be a slave or he was a servant in his previous life. Even Ju Yoon doesn't know why he has refused to accept the proposal. He assumes that it is as a result of the soul shackles which Lucifer had used to bind them. He explains to the elder that Lucifer is a demon like him. Ji looks at the pipe that connects to his lower body and asks him where does his food goes whenever he eats. Ju Yoon doesn't answer her. He keeps speaking with the elder and explains to the elder that when he arrives in that world, Lucifer casts a spell on him. Ji pulls off the needles that they have attached to Ju Yoon's body to regenerate. She asks him if it doesn't hurt him, and he tells her the reason it doesn't hurt him is that he is a zombie. When the elder hears that Lucifer is also a demon, and he is probably a different Tarnai, he tells Ju Yoon that he can't take him. He explains to Ju Yoon that another Tarnai taking a Tarnai slave is like declaring a vendetta on each other. However, he feels killing Lucifer won't be hard for him. Trying to understand why the elder is interested in him, he feels like the elder has a background story. The elder tells him that he should go back to his master for now, but warns him that if he breathes a word about what had happened that day to anyone, he will kill him, his master, his companion, and anyone around him. He tells Ju Yoon that just by looking at his battle power, he can be sure that he isn't bluffing, and that he has the ability to do what he has said. Ju Yoon agrees that he wouldn't tell anyone, but he is interested in something, and he hopes that the elder will tell him. He tells the elder that he knows he is looking for someone that isn't from that world like him, but asks the elder what he wants to use the person he finds to do. The rationale behind his question is that he feels glad that he has finally found a responsibility that a hero from the other world can achieve, and he can eventually become the hero he wants to be. He looks forward to an answer from the elder, but he doesn't get one as the man tells him that someone like him doesn't have to know the purpose. He is looking for an otherworldly. He tells him that what he needs to know is probably about the next thing that will happen to him, and it could be a doom. He knows his mind has gone to being taken as a hero, so he will escape what is coming for him. But either way, he is really doomed. After he leaves, the elder says that Ju Yoon is calm and very patient. He is also brave and can also withstand insults. He is ignorant, but he also knows about honor, and if he is to choose between riches and better life, he will surely go for a better life. He is sure that Ju Yoon will surely find them again.